Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Japan and we're going to return to a brewery that featured on the channel for the first time very recently. So the last beer that I tried from this brewery was really nice and very true to the style, and the one that we're going to have a look at today is from a series of kind of experimental beers they do within one style category, but they've all got very good write-ups from what I've seen, and this one, from my perspective, is a little bit of a classic within the style category as well actually. So I'm quite curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us, because I've heard this is a style they can do very well. So hopefully this is another good one, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So yeah, for this review then we are going to return to Shizuoka Prefecture, Mochimune to be specific, and we're going to have a look at my second beer from West Coast Brewing. So this particular beer comes from their trial series. So this one is the double dry hopped Citra Mosaic. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is a New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it. And obviously it contains Citra and Mosaic, which are two of the classic New England IPA hops. But yeah, this should be quite nice. The last beer we tried, of course, was the Particle Ocean, which was a West Coast triple IPA, and I thought that was really quite nicely done, in fact. So I'm curious to see what their New England IPAs are going to be like. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what we have. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from West Coast Brewing before, and we will hopefully be able to add more to that list in the near future. These guys are pumping out quite a lot of beers, so we definitely will review more, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer based on the geography tagging system. So go to the search bar, put in your home county, state, prefecture, whatever, and if I've reviewed beers from that area, they will pop up. And you can also check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist. But yeah, let's go on to my brewing notes then, and I'll tell you a little bit about West Coast Brewing. So West Coast Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Mochimune in Shizuoka in Japan, which is right next to Mount Fuji, a bit to the south of Tokyo, of course. But the brewery itself was founded back in 2019 by Derek Baston, who's originally from Seattle in Washington in the Pacific Northwest over in the US. But he previously worked as an architect. So Derek originally came to Shizuoka back in 2003, and he would often visit different breweries during his trips home, and he said that he was always inspired by the craftsmanship that went into the West Coast American beers, and he wanted to bring that to Japan because there weren't many really doing this at the time that he arrived. But apparently the idea to found his own brewery can be traced back to 2014 when he designed the Shizuoka distillery for Gaia Flow. But this was his first real look inside the brewing and distilling world, and it inspired him to visit other breweries and distilleries around the country and talk to those inside the industry. And apparently doing this made him feel that the process of starting his own brewery was not quite as daunting as he thought it was going to be. So he founded a bar in Shizuoka called 12 to test the water and see how if the beers that he wanted to brew would sell. It turned out they would sell, and very, very well, and he decided to go for it. So they found a premises in an abandoned tuna processing factory in the Mochimune Marina. They renovated it and converted it into a brewery. But the brewery is equipped with a 10 BBL system, which is around 1600 litres per brew for those of you who use the metric system, the right way to measure things, not all this barrels and stuff like that. But they've got 10 fermentation vessels, 2 bright beer tanks, and they produce between 12 to 20,000 litres of beer per month. And the 3 brewers are Satoshi Niwa, who's from Japan, he's the brewing manager. Then they've got Cedric Mel, who is from France, and Grant Scholler, who is from the US. But the brewery's mascot is the Hop Dude, and you'll see these on the Hop Dudes on pretty much every release that you'll get from West Coast Brewing, and the artwork is designed by Simon Henshaw, who I believe is from Manchester in England. But quite a few of these artworks are based on things that Derek likes to do himself. So you'll see them in different. You'll see the hop dude doing different things like surfing and things like that. But over the first few years, they've basically been leaning more towards brewing different IPAs. But they're also in the process of establishing a barrel program. So we'll probably see more imperial stouts and barley wines and things like that from these guys going forward. But as of December 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 210 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and there will no doubt be more in the near future. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about West Coast Brewing for the moment. As I said to you, this is one of the Japanese breweries who've really been building a very good reputation for themselves, and we'll need to see if they're going to start exporting their beers at some point, because they are pretty damn solid, and I think they would do quite well. So yeah, if you want to learn more, as I say, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and actually have a look at the beer itself, because there were one or two interesting things that it said on the website about this one. Let me just find that again. So, as I said to you earlier, this one is part of a series of beers they do called The Trial, and it's basically where they experiment with different hops and different yeasts and stuff like this within the IPA category. Most of them seem to be New England IPAs, I will point that out as well. So the little blurb that they have about this particular beer on the website is that it says it wasn't the double dry hop of Citra Mosaic he was concerned about. That was brilliant. It was the yeast. A38 has been used in the underground for some time now, but this was the first time the High Hop Council's head magistrate had caught someone red-handed. Verdant and SO4 hazies could be used to power the gateway, but this new strain could also throw a wrench in their plans. A38 makes it pop, dank and juicy. Citra brings the orange grapefruit haze blast. That is this brew. Thick and layered with lupulin, diesel-esque mosaic dankness and a balanced bitterness to make this one of the most dangerously delicious hazies yet. So yeah, that's their little blurb that they have on the website there. We know Citra and Mosaic hops very, very well. Both 14% alpha acid, both American. Citra, in my experience, is going to give you a nice little bit of grapefruit, but a lot of kind of juicy, like pungent passion fruit and mango, and also a little bit of a lemon limey character as well, whereas Mosaic for me is more of a kind of tangerine orange note actually. So also can have a little bit of earthiness in my experience too. So yeah, we'll need to see how it plays out in this particular beer. But as you can see, this one, the artwork on this is a bit different to what we saw with the Particle Ocean. There you can see the hop dude on trial and the kind of wizard hop guy in the top there, which is kind of cool. But yeah, slightly different artwork in this one, as you can see. But I will point out that the trial beers, the artwork is very, very similar for these. But yeah, there you can see the West Coast Brewing symbol. I'm not sure how well that's going to show up with the kind of shiny thing there. The camera does not like shiny things, but you can see plain silver top on the can. And as I said to you in the other video, these guys sell their beers in 500 milliliter cans, which is pretty cool. And this is another way they kind of distinguish themselves in Japan. But yeah, 8% New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I'm very curious to see what this is going to have in store for us. There we are. I think this glass as well, I will point out this glass that I have is 1 American pint, so we'll pour the rest of the beer in a wee bit later on. So remember, 1 American pint is 473 millilitres, so rather than the Imperial pint, which is 568. But yeah, as you can see with this one, it's poured pretty much as you would expect from a New England Hazy IPA. In terms of the colour, I would describe this one as a nice kind of rich yellow. It reminds me a little bit of mango juice. I always like comparing New England IPAs to different fruit juices because that's just what the appearance reminds me of. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do and any adjuncts that you put in will affect the colour of your beer too, but we don't have to care about that when it comes to most IPAs. It's very rare you'll find like a barrel aged IPA, although I have seen that in Japan as well actually. That was Tamamura Honten, Shiga Kogen, that did that, which was quite interesting. But yeah, this one is really quite nice. In terms of the level of haze in this beer, it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs that I've come across, but it is kind of appropriate for an 8%. Remember, the haze level depends on the oat content, the wheat content, and to a degree the yeast as well. This one for an 8%er, yeah, it's reasonable. It is reasonable. Not the soupiest and gloopiest, and not the clearest of New England IPAs either. It's pretty much as you'd expect. You can see that when we poured this beer, it poured with about what would you say, about a half finger of a frothy, kind of cream coloured head. That has just faded away to be a nice sort of thinner foamy layer now, but yeah, kind of smaller and medium-sized bubbles in this one. The head wasn't too foamy, but then again, we didn't pour the whole beer because this glass, as I said, is 1 American pint as far as I'm aware. So yeah, it certainly looks the part of a New England hazy IPA. Not much in the way of visible carbonation, just a few little bubbles going up toward the bottom of the head there. But yeah, I don't think we need to say anything else about appearance. Let's go on to the aroma of this one. Oh yeah, that does smell very nice, but also very familiar. So, as I've said before, when it comes to New England IPAs, for me, there are 6 things you should think about with these beers. So there's 6 ways they can lean. They can be sort of more farmhousey and yeasty. They can be rye leaning and grainy. Those 2 are a bit more common in American brewed New England IPAs in my experience, such as Alchemist, Hill Farmstead, things like that. But you can also get the kind of wheaty bitey leaning ones, the oaty creamy ones, the barley malt bread also, and you'll get the kind of sweet element in there as well. These are the 6 kind of flavour profiles, I guess you could say, that we should look for in a New England IPA. But for me, this one, just from the aroma, it smells, I get quite a bit of barley malt and I get quite a bit of the oats as well. So I think this is going to be a kind of more oaty leaning New England IPA. And as I've always said, with the oats in New England IPAs, they're a good indicator of how fresh your beer is. The creamier they smell and taste, the fresher your beer is. The drier the oats are, the slightly older it is. This one is pretty damn fresh. You can tell that from the aroma straight away. But yeah, let's try and break that aroma down for you a wee bit more. But yeah, quite an oaty leaning New England IPA. Not too pungent, a green component, and lovely and juicy and fruity as well. So yeah, let's break that aroma down for you. The backbone of this beer is unquestionably a little bit of that fresh, white bready bread crust. On top of that, you absolutely get some of the kind of like fresh, fluffy white bread from the barley malt. That's definitely in there. Yeah, definitely a good little bit of that. And you also have a little bit of the yeah, you've also got you can smell a little bit of the wheat in this one. There is a little touch of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose, but overall the wheat is really smoothing this beer out. Different wheats, of course, can have a drastically different effect on these beers, but for me, the wheaty notes in this one, they give you a little bit of bitiness at the back of the nose, but for the most part, yeah, it's actually quite it really is just smoothing the beer out. Like I said, the malty base in this one really leans more toward the kind of oaty side of things. There's a good little bit of creaminess to the oat in there, but you do get a little tiny touch of dryness out of it. So I'm guessing this beer's maybe about a month old, maybe in the can about a month to 6 weeks, something like that, so still in good condition. And when it comes to the sweet side of this beer as well, I've got a feeling there's probably a good little bit of Golden Promise malt in this one, because there's just something very, very familiar about it. There's a little bit of that there's a little touch of like a Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotch type thing, which you expect from the New England IPAs when you start to go up the alcohol scale, but you've also got a little bit of kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type character. I'm not sure how good a reference that is for anyone from Japan that's watching, but yeah, it certainly has got a wee bit of that biscuity kind of cookie element in as well. But the main thing that sticks out to me with this New England IPA is the oatiness. This is an oaty leaning IPA when it comes to the malt base on the aroma. We'll see if that sticks or if that kind of comes through when we taste it. When it comes to the green component with this beer, yeah, for me, the more that I smell it, the more kind of floral character I get out of this one. Remember, New England IPAs tend to rely on late addition hopping and dry hopping whereas West Coast IPAs use early addition hopping as well. Early addition hopping is the first hour of your wort boil, gives you mainly bitterness. Late addition hopping is the last half hour of your wort boil, that gives you a little bit of bitterness but mainly flavour and aroma. And then dry hopping after the wort boil is completed, that gives you, it's pretty much all about flavour and aroma at that point. West Coast IPAs use all three, New England's use the latter two. But with this one, it has got a little bit of dankness to it. So that makes me wonder, maybe there's been a little bit of early addition hopping in this one. So it's got, the more that I smell of this beer, the more floral character I get out of the green component of the beer. There's a little touch of earthiness in there, which I would say is most likely Mosaic. And then you've got quite a nice bright grassy note out of this one. A little touch zesty, I would say. So yeah, the way this beer goes together from that perspective, it's very, very nice. The green component just adds a bit of depth to the beer. The fruity side of this one is pretty much exactly what you would expect from these hops. You've got a lovely big kind of juicy mango character to it. There's a little bit of pungent passion fruit behind there as well. That's the Citra that's giving you that. And you do have that kind of more oily tangerine-y character, which is the Mosaic. So yeah, there's a wee bit of a lemon. I do get a little touch of the Citra lemon limey character from this one. But yeah, for me, passion fruit, mango, tangerine orange, all things to be expected of this beer style. As I always say, take a bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them, because there's a lot of things going on. But yeah, I think we should taste this one now. So this one, if I'm giving it its correct name, I will need to check for titling the video. This one is the Trial Double Dry Hop Citra Mosaic from West Coast Brewing in Mochimune, Shizuoka, Japan. Let's get stuck into this beer. An 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double IPA, whatever you want to call it. Slàinte, skål, cheers, kampai. Ooh. That's very nice. I'm going to say that. That is very, very nice. First impression of this beer is, it's a lovely, big, smooth, creamy New England IPA. It really is more of a kind of oaty leaning affair, this one. As I was picking up in the aroma, this is one of the ones that really, where the aroma and the flavour really match up. I would say sometimes you get beers that throw in a few surprises and things, but this is a very soft, juicy, drinkable New England IPA. To be honest with you, for 8% ABV, that's dangerously drinkable. So yeah, but this is damn solid. So thumbs up to West Coast Brewing. You know, this is one of the things, this brewery's been getting a lot of attention, a lot of hype, actually. And you know, if their New England IPAs are this good, you can kind of see why. For me, there's a few too many New England IPAs on the market these days. I wish there was a bit more diversity, you know, more West Coast, more rye IPAs, more black IPAs, stuff like this. But when you come across beers like this, it's always nice. This is very, very well done. This is very good, and as I say, I've not had that many New England IPAs from Japan. You know, probably the best known ones I've had would be the what's the one, Neko Nihiki from Isakadoya. We've had a few from Ucho Brewing, if I remember the name correctly. Space Brewery it is in English. They do some really nice New England hazies. So yeah, there are some really good New England hazies in Japan. But this brewery, if their New Englands are as good as this, you can see why. But Ucho Brewing, as I say, are very good in this style category as well. Let's see if we can get the rest of this into the glass. There we go. Just the right amount. But as I say, I'm going to say thumbs up to West Coast Brewing for this one. This is a solid New England double IPA, dangerously drinkable. Let's just take another sip of this. Yeah, very, very good beer. Now, let's break this down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth then. So, middle third of your palate, you can feel that nice kind of fresh white bready bread crust backbone there. That forms the backbone of the beer. Very fresh bread. As I say, it almost feels as if you've got a little bit of the flour still on the crust. That's kind of the impression that this beer gives me, actually. So it's kind of funny from that perspective. A little bit of fresh white bread with the kind of the flour still on the bread crust. So yeah, very, very nice from that perspective, in my opinion. On top of that, there's a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker sort of note to this one. That comes out a little bit further, a little bit further on into the aftertaste, in my opinion. So you've got the fresh white bread crust, the Jacob's cream cracker, little touch of woodiness in there as well, toward the front of that middle third of your palate. So yeah, but that, as I say, it's mainly about the cracker. On top of that, there's a tiny little bit of like a wholemeal, kind of very slight brown bready sort of thing, but then you get that kind of taller, fluffier layer, which is the fresh, white bread. So yeah, I really like how that goes together. Yeah. I will say as well, one thing one area where this beer does diverge a little bit from its aroma is the wheatiness. You do get more wheatiness out of this beer than you would expect from the aroma. So on top of the kind of fluffy white bread layer, which is coming from the barley malt, you can feel a little bit of zippiness from the wheat, and then above the wheat you get the oats, and you can feel down the middle line of your tongue, in that middle third of your palate, you can feel the nice creamy oaty character in there. And as you push out further toward the edges of your palate, you get a little bit more dryness out of it actually, which I think is also very, very nice. So yeah, as I say, the oaty character on this one is nice. The one thing I would say as well about this beer, it hasn't quite got as much sweetness in the middle of the palate as I thought it was going to have. This one is actually a little bit more, it feels a little bit more old school in a sense, because I've noticed that in Europe at least, the New England IPAs have got slightly sweeter in recent times, especially when you go up the alcohol scale. And it kind of makes sense, you know, you do want to cover the booziness in these beers a little bit. But in the dead centre of this palate, you do get a little tiny touch of a sort of caramelly, butterscotchy, butter candy. And that's, as I say, in the dead centre of your palate. And as you move out further from that, you get a wee bit more of that kind of Werther's Original type note, that butter candy. And then as you push out further and further, there's a little touch of a kind of McVitie's digestive, biscuity type note to the beer. But the malt base in this one is really nicely done. Like I said, this is quite it is more of an old school New England IPA, this one. This reminds me of when these beers first came to Sweden, you know, the Amazing Haze, the Narangi, stuff like this. It reminds me of the old school, the first Swedish New England IPAs that I was drinking. So yeah, this is very nice, but as I say, quite an oaty leaning, creamy and juicy New England IPA. This is good. This is very, very nice, and I can see as well why this would fit the Japanese palate, because they like, you know, smooth and sweet flavours like this, and this beer does have that kind of smoothness to the creamy side of it. So yeah, we can continue on. We can continue on with this beer in that sense. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the back third of the palate then. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of that bready build up there. So yeah, nice little bit of bready build up in this one. I would say it's white bread. The base of the back third of your palate is a little bit more, the base of the back third of your palate is a little bit more kind of grainy. You do get a little bit more grainy, bread crusty character there. On top of that, again, you get a wee touch of cracker, but not a lot this one. I'd say the graininess from the bread crust is a bit more prominent. Then you've got the fluffy white bread layer on this one, which feels a good little bit taller actually, and also a little bit drier and more grainy again. Then above that, you have the you don't really get a wholemeal brown bready character in this one in the back third of your palate, but above that you start to get the kind of wheaty bitiness coming out of the beer. And as I said, the wheaty bitiness is a good bit more prominent in the actual flavour of this beer than it was in the aroma, so that's definitely worth bearing in mind as well. But yeah, it is really, really nicely done from that perspective. Above the wheaty bitey layer as well, you start to get a little bit more of the kind of estery flavours from the yeast. So you can feel above the wheaty bitiness, it's actually got like quite a sweet white bready note, which I find quite interesting. So yeah, a little bit of sweet white bready character in there. And it's almost got a little touch of like a farmhousey vibe to it as well. So you can feel on the back third of your palate, the flavour is definitely taller as you come further forward. Then it condenses down as you come into the the middle third of your palate actually. So that is pretty interesting. I do like how that goes together. In terms of the hoppy side of the beer, then this beer actually does have a wee bit more bitterness to it as well. I think the bitterness in this beer builds a bit more the further you go into the aftertaste, but we'll come back to that when we're talking about the mouthfeel. So back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, the earthiness, as I said, will be from the Mosaic. As you move further forward, it does actually develop a good little bit of a floral, aromatic sort of thing. So a good little bit of floral aromaticity coming out of the beer, and it's a little touch spicy as you reach the kind of the front corners of the palate. So yeah, I like how that goes together. Round the front curve of the tongue, you've got a little bit of a lighter, grassy sort of thing to the beer, and it's also got just a wee touch of zestiness as well. So yeah, you've got that little touch of zestiness in there. But yeah, the green component for me, it actually does have a good little bit of dankness to it, this one. And as I've said to you, when it comes to early edition, when you put early edition hopping in these beers, you do get that deeper, danker flavour out of it. So just from the way this one is, I suspect there is a bit of early edition hopping in this beer, because quite often what you find with the New England IPAs is they just do like late edition and dry hopping, and that gives you a very bright green component. But with this one, you can feel that it does have the real depth and the sort of spiciness is there. Both of these hops, of course, are high alpha acid, and they're capable of giving you these really dank flavours if used in the right way. But this, I do suspect a good bit of early edition hopping in this one, which I do like. I do enjoy that. I quite like a nice dank flavour. So you do get a little touch. You can feel there's a little bit of an almost piney depth to the beer on the sides of the palate, and that comes out more and more the more that you drink of this beer, for sure. But as I said, round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy. So yeah, I like how that goes together for sure. So yeah, its green component is nice, but let's focus on the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get a little bit of a white bready build up there. The base of the front third of your palate is a little bit more kind of smooth and white bready, like I said. So you can feel that there's a little touch of the oaty character creeps in there as well, and on top of that you have that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, the way that that goes together is really quite nice. So yeah, fruity side of the beer, at the back of that front third of your palate, you start to get more of a kind of, grapefruity. You get a bit of that stronger grapefruity note, which I think will come from the Citra out of these two hops. So I wasn't picking that up in the aroma, but as you come further forward, it kind of mellows out a little bit and gives you more of a kind of more pungent passion fruit. And then as you move toward the middle of that front third of your palate, it's more of a kind of juicy mango. There's maybe a little touch of like apricot and things sitting underneath that the further into the aftertaste you go. But yeah, this one is showing you the more pungent side of the Citra for me actually, and that's probably, as I say, because of early edition hopping. Just from some of the other flavours we've got in the beer, that's what I'm thinking. But as you move further forward into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's all about the Mosaic. You get that big oily tangerine quality from the Mosaic, and just behind the front curve of your tongue you've got a wee bit of that you do have a wee bit of that kind of lemon limey character coming out of it too. So yeah, that gets a big That does get a big thumbs up from me. It's kind of this one really shows you. It's got quite a diverse flavour, this beer, and it kind of shows you what the style can be, if that makes sense. This one shows you a bit of early edition hopping and the dankness that you can sometimes get. The malt base is really nicely done. It's a more oaty leaning New England IPA, like I said, but you get a bit more wheat out of it the further into the aftertaste you go, I think. Then you've got these two classic hops. And this one, you can't really go wrong with Citra Mosaic. It gives you the tropical side, and it also gives you the more kind of citrusy side as well when you combine these two. So yeah, as I say, just a really, really nicely done New England double IPA. This one, nothing new to what we've had on the channel before, but just really well done. And with this style, you can't ask for much more than that these days. So thumbs up to West Coast Brewing on this one. In terms of the mouthfeel with this beer, then, for me, I'd say this beer is kind of top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is really smooth in this one. As I said, the mouthfeel has a bit of that creaminess to it, but it's also quite clean. I've always found that Japanese beers have this sort of light drinkability to them, and you can kind of get a little bit of that out of this beer. And of course, the water quality up in Shizuoka is pretty damn high, we have to say. So yeah, you've got that going on with this one. In terms of the IBU count on this beer, I suspect that this is maybe... I think this is probably about... I think it's at least 40. It could be pushing 50. You do get more bitterness out of this beer the further into the aftertaste you go. Remember, the standard for a New England IPA is about 30. 25 or 30, but I think this beer's a bit more than that. And of course, the higher up the alcohol scale you go, it does fit if you add a little bit more bitterness. So I think 40 to 50 IBUs in this one. And as we said, the green component has a mix of everything. A bit of earthiness, bit of pininess, good little bit of floral spicy character, and some lighter grassiness as well. Malt base, as we said, lovely and smooth, but a bit wheaty and bitey further on. And yeah, you've got a lovely juicy fruity character to this one as well. So yeah, lovely New England double IPA, this one. So what we've gathered in these two reviews is that West Coast Brewing are capable on both sides with the IPAs. They can do a very nice West Coast IPA, although the one we did try needed a wee bit more bitterness, I think, but they can also do a very good New England. I'd love to try a black IPA from these guys. I don't know if they've done that yet, but yeah, trying something, maybe at the higher alcohol end of the scale, like a barley wine or a imperial stout, or if we can get a black IPA from these guys. A lager could be another interesting review to try from them. There's a lot of lagers in Europe these days. Some breweries are doing some very nice stuff. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out and see what we can find from West Coast Brewing going forward. But yeah, really impressed with, I have to say, very, very impressed with this brewery's beer so far. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. So yeah, this was the trial double dry hop Citra Mosaic, an 8% New England hazy imperial double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from West Coast Brewing in Mochimune, Shizuoka, near Mount Fuji here in Japan. Yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from West Coast Brewing as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys when the opportunity arises in the future. But yeah, check out my social media, check out their social media. These guys are doing some pretty good stuff. Probably one of the best breweries in Japan at the moment. But yeah, till the next time, Slanjut Skull, cheers, thanks for watching. Check out this brewery, they are very damn good. The West Coast Brewing Trial Series. We'll need to try a few more of these. Slanjut Skull, cheers, Kampai.